All right, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Jeannie Wenger. I am your president-elect. Thank you very much. And we are going to get started here. Our guest speaker today is going to be Wes Lowe from Maui Memorial, and Wes has been heading that up for the last 11 years, and he has graciously taken time out of his busy day to just kind of give us an update and an overview of what's going on at our hospital, and please give him a round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeannie. Aloha, everybody. Aloha. Actually, I think it's kind of funny you're thanking me. I'm actually here to thank you guys for listening to me. This has been a very important meeting for me today, and I'm going to sound probably plastic here, but I am actually trying to make the rounds to all what I feel are the very influential groups across the island of Maui, because it's something I feel is extremely important, and am trying to rally community support for. So again, so as a reverse, I want to thank you guys for allowing me to speak here today. I wanted to, I guess the real main purpose of me coming today was to engage you guys in a discussion, which I've certainly been passionate about for the last 11 years, but I was talking to Dave DeLeon before this, I actually think this is a little bit underground, but maybe more important than that GMO thing. I can't remember what it's called, whatever it's called, but I really do. I think that this may have some of the things I'm going to talk about may have a more far-reaching impact than the GMO from an economic standpoint and from a total overall infrastructure standpoint. So again, thank you for letting me come and speak today. I'm obviously here to talk to you about the hospital. Believe it or not, I used to work with Jeannie and used to do a lot of real estate loans and commercial loans, and really was sort of, I hate to admit it, I was a banker, so imagine a Chinese banker. That's kind of a scary thing, huh? Any event, you know, I made my venture into healthcare 11 years ago at Maui Memorial, and I'm going to be real quick about this, but I jumped into a time which is pretty volatile. For those of you who remember, that was during the time about the second hospital. And I was not part of the start of that, but I certainly was in the middle of it. And I have been, if you haven't seen me in the papers for a while, I was hiding for 11 years after that whole thing. It was a pretty brutal time, but I think it was a very important time in the county for healthcare. What I learned, again, nobody won in that battle. Nobody won. It was a very divisive thing, if you remember. But what was good about it, and what I always believe is really great about Maui, is we try to take things and we try to improve upon them. So for the past 11 years, what I heard from that whole battle was that we need to improve healthcare here on this island. We need to provide more and better services, and absolutely we need to continue to improve our services here on this island. We need to get more services, better services, and more access. I believe we've made some progress. I think we got a long way to go, but over the last 10 years, we certainly have done a lot of things that I think we should be proud of for our community. I would say that we probably, our stroke program and heart programs are the envy of the neighbor islands, and I would venture to challenge you to say that our results in our heart program and our stroke program are probably as good as any in the state. And I could probably bring you the data for that. And what was important about that is before, if you remember before, if you had a heart attack, you would be flown to Oahu for that, and the famous saying is time is muscle. That is not the standard of care, and we on the island of Maui don't deserve that in any case, and any of the people that are going to move here don't deserve that. So we've made strides on that, and I think we've been improving the hospital. We've got a new wing, and we keep on trying, and I'll be the first to admit there's a lot more for us to do, and we'll continue to work on it. It'll be, it's something you always got to work on forever. But over the last 11 years, the world has changed even more for us, and healthcare is becoming much more complicated right now. And I think in the island right now, we are in the tipping point right now, we got to make some decisions, and I'm here to ask for support or at least engagement from the community to talk about this. Some of the strategies we used over these last 10 or 11 years is, well, financially we needed to get a little firmer footing. And so the goal is to do the classic business model, is get rid of some of the unprofitable services, which is the people, try to move them into the long-term care facilities appropriately, and then expand service into the more profitable things, which is like the hearts and the strokes and so on and so forth. And we were able to do that, and we have grown. However, with the advent of the new Affordable Care Act and everything, things have kind of changed a bit. Revenues are not going up, and for order you to grow revenues, you have to invest. And the state, as you guys know, doesn't usually like to invest. They have too many things they got to put money into, so they haven't been able to fund us to do more investments into more services, et cetera. The reimbursements, which is mostly from the federal government, or Medicare and Medicaid, are actually pretty much flat. They actually went down over a couple of years ago because of what they call sequestration. So you got this flat revenue line, you got medical inflation going up 4 to 7% per year, and then we got that wonderful collective bargaining at the state of Hawaii. So the state of Hawaii goes and negotiates our pay raises. We don't have anything to do with it, and we are the only 24/7 census-driven operation in the state of Hawaii. So it's kind of the wrong work rules, but they've been giving raises, and 2 years ago they decided, oh, by the way, we're not going to fund your raises wholly. So before they used to fund whatever raises we got, the taxpayers would pay for the raises. 2 years ago they said we're going to give 4% raises, which with all these various union things ended about 7% raise for us. Last 2 years, about 7% each year. They only funded us $12 million per year. This is for the whole state hospital system. And yet the costs are $60 million per year. So they basically loaded on the hospitals $48 million more in expenses without giving any ability to increase your revenues, et cetera. So that's been problematic. And when we started the HEART program, I actually had to go out to the financial markets and borrow money. Well, after we did that, a couple of years later, because of a failed attempt in Kauai, they took away our ability to mortgage property anymore, so we couldn't even go to the financial markets. So they're not going to give us money. They've taken away our ability to borrow money, to expand services. Revenues are flat and expenses are going up. Kind of a bad circumstance, right? And then I won't talk too much about this because I don't want to bore you guys too much, but just found out last week there's something that the state provides to all its workers. It's called retiree health. I'm sure all you guys wish you'd have that from your employers, is that when you retire, you get health for life. And you might have read about it. The state hasn't been putting money away for that. They pay for it on a pay-as-you-go basis. Well, last year they passed this law that said, oh, you got to start funding that now. And so starting July of this next year, the counties, the UH, and everybody, you guys got to start salting money away, and you have 5 years to do that. So our fringe benefit rate, I don't know if you guys follow that stuff, normally for a normal business is about 25 to 30 cents per dollar. We went from 41 cents, and next year we're going to go to 52 cents per dollar. And if it holds true, we may be up around 80 or 90 cents per dollar. So it's unsustainable, the model we got. And yet we got a growing hospital, we got a growing community, it affects all of us, and we're a big economic driver. And I think not only from a direct standpoint of the jobs we provide, we're the second largest employer actually in the county, but also I think it affects your businesses also. You know, I don't think a lot of the people want to move here if there's not a good health system, and frankly on the neighbor islands we got the best health system in the neighbor islands right now. So as you may or may not know, over the last several years, probably 6 years, we kind of saw this coming, and we've been trying to find different ways out, and have been trying to find ways to find different partners, and yet we're not allowed to by the state. We actually brought in a company from the mainland, a huge company, Banner Health, I think it was 3 years ago, and they wanted to come in. They loved Maui Memorial. They just absolutely loved it, wanted to come in, but the legislature did not allow them to do that. So and it was a little bit polarizing because Banner was one of these non-union shops, and the doctors are a little bit nervous because they're very much what they call evidence-based. They hold their doctors to a certain level of evidence, which I think we all should be happy about. Evidence is good in healthcare. So last year we tried again, and we said let's not name anybody. Let's just say let's get legislation just to allow us to look for anybody. And we got really close to passing legislation to allow us to privatize, and it failed. Frankly, at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon before the end of the legislature, it died for a variety of reasons, and it doesn't matter why it died. So I was frankly about ready to give up and saying is that, hey, we're going to be doomed with this model. Sooner or later, healthcare is going to have some trouble. But I happened to run to the president from Hawaii Pacific Health, which owns Straub, Kapilani Medical Center, Palimomi, and Wilcox Hospital. And I said, hey, you were interested in us. Would you be willing to put together a deal for us to look at and have the legislature look at and consider, even though there's no ability to do any kind of partnership or privatization? He said, sure. And so we decided to go down this path. And so we're currently in due diligence with them. And then along the way, Kaiser, which actually insures about 45% of the lives in the island of Maui, and they have the big Maui clinic and everything, they've now said they're extremely interested. So right now we're in the midst of heavy due diligence right now, exchanging a lot of information, and we're hopeful that by probably the end of November, we may have some things that we can present to the community, as well as our workers, et cetera, because we want to make sure that vibrant workforce, competitive wages, but also that there's less subsidy from the state and there's more services to the community and better health care coverage. So we're hoping that's going to happen. I'm going to digress here one point. One other thing that why I really want to look for a private partner is there's something happening in this community that's getting a little bit nervous for me right now, and it's the physician, the ideas of the physician. For years, we've relied on independent physicians in the community, and they were basically, they would cover call and do all this stuff, and so we never had to worry about it. Well, things have changed now. All those independent physicians are retiring. I don't know if you know this, but right now there is one urologist in the island of Maui to cover all non-Kaiser patients. And he just came, because we just had 2 urologists close their shop, Dr. Glenn Haynes and Dr. Pat Hamilton. And recently, a few months back, a gastroenterologist, we had 2 retire, Dr. Joseph Yu and Dr. Jim Hansen. If we didn't hire somebody at Maui Memorial, there might not be coverage for gastroenterology, which is potentially life-threatening. And so the problem is you're not having these new doctors come in to start practices. They want to be hired. And if the hospital's not going to hire them, who's going to hire them? And you've got to have the infrastructure, and you have to have enough doctors. So we're kind of at this tipping point. We're surviving, we're doing good, we're covered as well as any island in the state, but we're really running on a razor-thin thing. So you want to get a big organization to help you start developing that so that we can ensure that kind of coverage for all times, because you don't want to have your loved one or your neighbor or anybody have to fly to Honolulu for something that should be able to be taken care of here. So anyway, okay, I'm going to cut to the chase here. The House Health Committee, they're now willing to consider this because of the huge budget deficit. They either have to give us tons of money, or we're going to have to lay off lots of people and close lots of services, period. Or they can let us go and seek a private partner like Hawaii Pacific Health or Kaiser. Well, they said that, Wes, if you want to do that, you got to show community support. So we believe in November they're going to hold a hearing here in Kahului. We're hoping that the date is November 10th, only because it was after election. We wanted to make sure it's after election. And I am hopeful that I can get all the major economic engines and the major stakeholders on the island to come and say why healthcare is so important, however they solve it, but they can't let us shrink. I'll tell you right now, as the island is growing, I think you guys know that. This week, how busy the hospital was? 2 days ago, I was holding 7 people in the emergency room because I didn't have a bed. Yesterday, I was holding 9 people in the emergency room. Today, we're okay. But if we don't start investing in our infrastructure, that's not how we should have a hospital here. We should be growing our hospital, growing services, and we need to find the money to do that. And I don't believe the state is going to be able to afford it without punishing the taxpayers. And yet, we're bringing a solution that would would actually help the taxpayers, actually improve services, et cetera, by affiliating with a larger corporation. So I want you to consider that, and I'll talk to Dave and Terry later. I'm hopeful that when this hearing happens, that maybe a few of you guys may show up. I'm not looking to have all this testimony, but to show that how important healthcare is for us. Well, whether we do a good job or you like the hospital or not, I think it's important that we rally around mom and apple pie about healthcare. We can't afford for our island to go to be like the Big Island or Kauai as far as healthcare. We are so close to competing with Oahu and things. In fact, somebody from Kaiser told me is, you guys can either be the Big Island or you guys can be Oahu. You're that close. But you just need the right investment, the right intellectual resources, and we can get there. And I think that's going to help the hotels, it's going to help the real estate, et cetera. And so I guess I'm here to ask for your support, or at least to get you engaged in the conversation. So happy to answer any questions, but that's all I got to say.
With the election coming up, is there any candidate that is against you or against supporting a private partnership that you're willing to publicly state?
Yeah. No, actually, it's interesting. Yeah, I find it amusing. I don't know. I mean, the only person that I've actually talked to directly about this is David Ige, and over the years, he has been supportive of this. I found it amusing that they have all this information that they haven't talked to me, and they're saying that, because he was the WHAM chair. But I think all of them support it. The problem is, I think where we have is in the legislature is the body is predominantly Oahu-based. They don't know what it's like to have, I mean, they can walk across the street to different hospitals, and not that we should have lots of hospitals, because you want to have a hospital that can have as many services as you can and have that critical mass, but I think all of them, I'm glad that this is a topic there. I don't think any of them I'm worried about. I am worried that they try to jump in and solve the process, because this shouldn't be their, yes, they should be involved, but it should be our community's decision, not their decision. Yeah, I mean, it's our community. We got to worry about the healthcare. But I haven't seen, I haven't talked directly with Mufi or Duke about it at all. I'm just kind of surprised that they know as much as they do. And I have talked to David about it, so I'm not nervous about any of them as it relates to that. Any more questions? Yes?
Be that as it may, knowledge is power, and you're right. For the Oahu people have no idea what we go through. And I think you're talking to them, even though, rather than assuming that they know, would be really helpful, because I think all of them are eager to help, but they have to know the facts.
Yeah, so we've been trying. I think that the problem we do is we do have the unions, and we're promoting that we will be a union shop, and we actually want to work with the existing unions. But it's always, you got to go through this evolution. But we are trying to talk to them. They don't quite understand, though. I mean, like in Oahu, I see some healthcare workers in here. In Oahu, if the hospital's crowded, they divert to another hospital. We can't do that. We got to put someone on a plane, which costs $18,000, to fly over to Honolulu. And how do you not treat something like pneumonia? You don't fly somebody over to Oahu for pneumonia. It's kind of a weird thing. So, but we are working on it. I was telling Dave is communication is key, and I've certainly learned my lesson that you got to get ahead of it. So that's why we're starting earlier this year. And we've been working through the last year, this year, and I probably failed quite miserably over the last several years. So I'm trying to do a little better job this year. And I appreciate you guys coming or allowing me to speak.
In light of the Ebola crisis, do we have any plans in Hawaii, or are you having dialogues with Oahu? What would happen in case this?
Yeah, there's actually been a ton of conference calls at all levels right now. So we actually had the state epidemiologist here yesterday or 2 days ago, and we can handle the initial part of Ebola, the isolation. You don't actually need what they call negative pressure, because it's not an airborne disease, but it's a contact disease, fluids and blood, et cetera. So we have that ability, and we have what they call the PPE, or personal protective equipment, that can help that. But the problem is that really when you start treating anything like that, you really need to get it to people that know what they're doing. I think there were some mistakes, I understand it, some of the other hospitals. So now we've talked about it, is that there's going to be a cadre of people in the state. If there ever is an Ebola, that cadre of people will take care of all the care and the diagnostic. Like if you need to do a blood test, we're not going to do it. They're going to do it. And Queens so far has volunteered to be the designated place. They're looking for one more. We can handle the isolation part of it, but it's weird. It's kind of weird. We start thinking, healthcare workers think about things differently. If we know about it, it's a public health, and somebody's coming in, usually we can take care of it. But what happens if they just show up and you don't know about it. That's what we worry about. But and the problem is that we're so full right now. Is although we'd have to move people around to get that one isolation room, but we can manage it. That's something we look forward to. And the state is very vigilant right now. They have basically said they will take over care. There'll be like sort of one doctor, one nurse, and frankly, they're working on transport, so we'll probably get over to Oahu. Yeah. Yes?
The hospital on the west side, is that in any of your plans to join with that?
I'm waiting to see what happens with that. I'm not, I mean, again, this is one man's opinion. A 25-bed hospital in a population of 11,000, I'm cautious on how sustainable that is, knowing what I know about hospitals. You know, it's a tough business. Hospital business is an extremely tough business. I understand he says he's got financing. I'll wait to see what happens. We have had some minimal discussions with him. I don't think it affects us that much, but I just want to make sure that if they do open a hospital, that they don't close it, that they keep it open. I actually think they would benefit by us if we had a partner to talk about different things. I actually know some models where there's actually emergency rooms, standalone emergency rooms. So I'll see. I think that they still got some land entitlements to go. And I do think that one of the issues, like I said, we have the issues with physician issues, is on the west side is having physician issues that will want to staff a hospital because they don't make money in the hospital, they make money in their clinics. And so you end up got to pay people. I got to pay people to stay in the hospital all the time to cover everybody. I mean, I pay a lot of money. So I think that I wish them luck. I think that as they get closer, they'll be talking to us. We have had some discussions with them. And I do know that at times they do talk to our potential partners to see if there's going to be some affiliations. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you for your time, everybody.
Thank you so much.
All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much, Wes. That was very informative. We now know what it takes to make you happy. Pie and coffee. We got it. Okay. All right. Next on our agenda is the topic of listing syndication. And this has come up and is a big topic of conversation to all of the national events that I have been sent to recently. And it's just the big buzz, right? What's happening with Trulia and Zillow, and how come our data isn't accurate, and all these things that we want to know, and should we stop it? Should we stop giving them our data? Should we not? These are the questions I hear. So we thought it would be great for us to get informed and have a conversation here as to what we know about it, how we feel about it, and if there's anything we want to do or change. So we sent you a survey. And many people responded to that survey, and the purpose of that survey was to find out what you know or think you don't know, and whether you think you know where to get information. And that's what we wanted to find out, is what's everybody's level of understanding and knowledge. And then the next phase would be to provide you with information. So to start us off today in this conversation, I'm going to share with you a video of our president. Is he our president-elect still, or our president? President now, Chris Polychrome. He's president of NAR, and he spoke at the Chicago Leadership Conference in August and addressed the 2,000 or so people that were there, mostly presidents-elect and executive officers, and talked about his specific goal going forward for this year.
Now, today and tomorrow, you'll learn more about NAR and resources that we offer that'll help you be better local and state leaders. There's no need to steal the thunder from those who'll be speaking after me. Instead, I want to share a story or two today that may help you to get to know me better. My dad was a Greek immigrant, came to this country when he was 16 years old, left his mother, didn't speak the language. Fast forward, he was a successful restaurateur in Little Rock, Arkansas, where I grew up. One morning, I was about 16 years old, and when my daddy wanted me up, he would just start shaking my leg, and I didn't have to ask who it was. I knew who it was. Well, I jumped out of bed, and in his thick Greek accent, he said, "Chris, get your clothes on and get out on the porch." Well, I'm scrambling to get my clothes on, and we get out on the front porch. It's a buff brick house, and that certainly plays into the story. He said, "You see the rent house? That's the rent house. Up the street. I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "You see the elm tree in the front yard?" And there was this huge elm tree that hung out over a pretty busy street. He said, "Chris, cut the tree down." I'm serious, this tree was huge. Well, I was 16, remember that. I said, "Well, what do you give me to cut that tree down?" Well, immediately I knew I'd said the wrong thing. Twisted my t-shirt, pushed my back up those buff bricks with his other finger. He said, "I'm going to give you about a half a day." I knew this was going to be a problem. So I was always had a little politician in me. I convinced 4 or 5 of my buddies how cool it would be to cut this tree down. So you know what? We got that tree cut down together by noon. Now, why am I telling you this story? Today, there is a mammoth tree blocking our way. For some of us, that tree is disintermediation. For others, it's merely the fear of change. Now, you know, disintermediation, that's really just a big fancy word for realtors replacing realtors as the first point of contact with consumers. They want to get more out of our members' pockets without adding any value to the transaction. That doesn't sound fair to me. Does it sound fair to you? When realtors work directly with consumers, their interests are protected because realtors put consumers first. It's the central tenet of our code of ethics. We faced obstacles in our way before. Our founding members cleared the path for an ethical profession. It was the honest real estate professionals who acted by creating and adapting to a code of ethics to protect consumers. Now, while the obstacle we're facing today may be different than the one some 100 years ago, the problem's the same. The consumer is being mistreated. Realtors must once again stand up for consumers. If we don't, we could return to the days of the Wild Wild West. We simply cannot let this happen. Consumers are entitled to know the real source of the property being displayed. Consumers are entitled to accurate and timely data being displayed. Consumers are entitled to get an accurate estimate of the value of their property, not some ballpark figure. As you will learn over the next 2 days, NAR does outstanding work on behalf of its members. We are the premier advocacy organization, the best in the business. Talk to anyone on Capitol Hill. We're respected. We're influential. When we ask our members of Congress, our members to contact members of Congress, our response rate is more than double the average response rate. And across this nation, in the 50 state capitals, in the 3 territories, in the District of Columbia, every city, every county and town hall, we are the voice. We realtors are the voice of real estate. Advocacy is where we shine. I'm going to be blunt. We're in a fierce battle to be the first point of contact with the consumer. So I'm going to issue a challenge for all of us right here, right now. Realtors must never be replaced as the first point of contact with the consumer. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. To do this, we must recognize the value of our data. Our members work hard to evaluate property and accumulate the very latest and timely information about property. You know, it's ironic that without the members collecting the data, the third-party aggregators would be nothing. Now, to do this, we must create a Bill of Rights. This will protect your interests in your listing information. First, the identity of the broker and the listing agent should be prominently displayed on the first page with a hyperlink. Second, only properties that accurately reflect their listing status should be displayed. Third, listings should not be modified. Fourth, copyright notices should be shown on all listings. Fifth, one must understand the terms of your agreement to and for your display of your listings. Finally, providers should highlight and promote the term realtor. Let me repeat myself, highlight and promote the term realtor. Now, what I'm proposing will not be easy. That's why I said it was going to be a challenge. But there's one thing I know about realtors. We're not intimidated by the odds. No doesn't stop us. In fact, that's just when we get going. But we're going to have to change, and we cannot be afraid of change. Winston Churchill once said, "To improve is to change. To be perfect is to change often." I'm going to tell you, with the amount of change that we're in for, we're going to be damn perfect when this is all over. That brings me to another story. I went to high school in Little Rock, Arkansas, Hall High School. All of us in high school had a guidance counselor. Well, my guidance counselor's name was Miss Mahan. And Miss Mahan, towards the end of your senior year, would invite all the seniors in, and she'd ask you what intentions you had when you got out of out of high school. And she'd proceed, and we went through some pleasantries. I remember the day I was there, and she said, "Mr. Polychrome, what are your intentions when you graduate from high school?" I said, "I'm going to go to the University of Arkansas, pledge a fraternity, and have a real good time and graduate." Well, she paused. She looked at me, and she said, "I think you should consider going to a vocational school after high school." Well, I was offended that she insinuated that I wasn't college material. In fact, I was upset. More than that, it lit a fire under me. I went to the University of Arkansas. I pledged to fraternity. And as you probably know, I had a real good time. But I did get that diploma. Went back home, thought about it. I decided I wanted to go see Miss Mahan. Took my diploma, went up to the school, asked to see her. They let me see her. Walked in her office, and I threw my diploma down on her desk. And I said, don't ever discourage a kid's dream. And don't ever underestimate any of your students. I will never underestimate you. I believe in you. I believe in our members. I believe in this association. I love this association. I believe we are destined to accomplish great things. My fellow leaders, there's a huge tree out there blocking our way. For many of us, it is about disintermediation. For others, it can be the fear of change. You know, my dad only gave me half a day to cut down that tree. Well, we have to cut down the tree in front of us, and we may have a little more than a half a day, but not much more. You know what? I can't do it by myself. Just like that tree, I got my buddies to help me cut it down. I need some of my buddies to help me. Now, I want to know who's with me. Are you with me? Local presidents, if you can help me. Local presidents, stand up if you're with me. Local association executives, if you're with me, stand up if you're with me. I need you.
It goes on. He's quite a dynamic speaker. I think he makes his point very well, and ergo, you get the purpose of our conversation here, is to have a dialogue about this particular issue. So with that, Terry, are you going to be presenting to us the results of our survey? And let's see what we know and don't know. Oh, scroll down. Okay.
Ooh. Okay, so this survey had 17 questions. There were 286 total that answered. This question was 281 answers. A lot of people didn't answer it because they didn't know enough about syndication. They were afraid to take the survey. I found that out talking to some people at some of the CE classes. I suggested to them during the announcements about, go ahead and take it because that's the point. This is it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I like to be able to hear you. So there's a lot of confusion about the topic, a lot of opinion. It's not quite at GMO level. Thank goodness. So we'll go through it. Some of these are, kind of standard, not huge questions to have the answers to. This one's just, what was the size of your brokerage and agents, just so we know where they're coming from. The majority of people were from a smaller brokerage. And that's just the layout, the demographics of who answered. Next is what's education and training, which one describes you? I don't know much about syndication. Let me scroll down to where the actual questions are. I don't have access to the information, or I have access to the information but don't have time to pursue more education. I'm satisfied with my syndication knowledge, or I need more access to education. If you took the two, I don't know much and I need more access, that's 50% right there. And 31.5% were satisfied with what they knew. So, and how do you know what you know? How do you know how much you know about what you only know so much of, I guess would be. And these questions, some of them were, let me back up. This is part of a bigger program called Wise Advertise, and it's put on by List Hub because there's a big debate about the syndication portals. List Hub's a vehicle we use to get your listings to Zillow, Trulia, Yahoo Real Estate, however many places you want it to go to. So it's a conduit. And there's been a lot of rumble in the community during the real estate industry. Oh my gosh, lots of MLSs are canceling List Hub. Well, right now it's 2, maybe 3. It's Austin, Texas, North Alabama MLS, and I'll bet there's probably another one by now. So it's not that many, but those are pretty large MLSs. And what they did was they said, after talking with their board of directors and their members, they say, okay, we're going to try and turn syndication off. So they're not going through List Hub to get listings there. However, brokerages are empowered, and the MLS facilitates them to get their listings, that brokerage's listings, straight to their chosen syndication points. So listings are still there. The big argument is about how much control do I have, if I'm a broker, how much control do I have of where my listing goes. And in our MLS, there's 2 levels. One is when you put the listing in, there's a permissions to advertise set of questions. I want to go to RAM site, yes or no. I want to go to RAM vendor sites, which would be List Hub and Realtor.com. And the third is, do I want to go to other agent broker sites? And you can say yes or no per listing. And then the second level is, if you say yes to those 3, you can go to the List Hub control panel and say, I don't want any of my listings to go to Portal, whatever, Zillow or Trulia or wherever it is you don't want it to go. But that's all your listings on or off to that endpoint. And that's where I think the biggest breakdown is in your knowledge or your control of your listings. And that's something that this program's gauged to educate and let people make more informed decisions rather than not understand it. And the survey is just the beginning survey to find out where people are at before the program runs. So how do your listings get to the website, the publisher websites? Our MLS provides it. My website vendor sends it. I post them manually on Postlets, which is a program. Let me go down. I manually type the information into the site, and that's 12%, 13% of the people that responded. I belong to a large franchise, and my company has a feed that sends it. So that would be, for instance, ERA, Century 21, Coldwell Banker, and probably Island Sotheby's and a few others. 2 people out of 200 and whatever, or 272 that responded said, I don't allow my listings to be fed to third-party sites, and 12.5% were, I don't know how my listings show up on the websites. And because this is a multiple pick, there's also the question, I use multiple methods, so it could be any 2 or more of those. And there is no wrong answer to this. This is just what do we know about it now? What are the benefits of syndicating your listings? Well, better visibility of the listings and increase the chance of sales were the 2 leading ones. We can scroll down to the actual numbers. So listing more properties and listing more properties was 12.5%. And by far the biggest ones were the better visibility and increase the chance of selling. And then from the broker level, recruiting and retaining agents, and I'm not sure, was 14.5%. What are the frustrations that you have with syndicating listings? Now this is the important part. Inaccurate listing data. Well, first of all, is evaluation modules. And I'm sorry that the tags here don't show you the whole content there. So valuation modules, like Zillow's estimates, etc., 70% found that to be a major aggravation. 59% said inaccurate listing information on the portal sites. 53% competing agent ads on the side, which aggravates everybody but those competing agents, it seems like. Then multiple copies of the same listing with different prices. And also some third-party sites capture leads and sell them back to me. And 13% said, I'm happy with the system that I use. Let me ask, how many people here have bought a lead from a portal site? Okay, because usually it's talked about a lot more than it's actually done. But one other argument I've heard is, well, those top agents have already bought that placement on the right side and I can't get there. And I'm mad about that. And that's like saying that agent A is for the next 2 years booked the back page of Homes and Land magazine and I'm mad that I can't buy that ad. And I understand it, but it's the way that part works. Okay, who should control syndication choices? In other words, where your listings are advertised online. By far the broker was the #1 choice. The MLS at some degree, and then the agent. And remember the listings belong to the broker, and I'm talking to a room full of brokers, so if your agent wants to get it there and you don't want it there, I think the broker's going to rule. And what's the frequency that you expect new or modified listings to be updated on internet sites? The majority said once a day. Some said twice a day, 4 times a day, and more frequently than 4 times a day. It could be, real time maybe. I know Realtor.com says that in some MLSs they're updating every 15 minutes. And that's more a factor of if it's accurate and it's updated daily, and how fast is your market moving. And who's using it for what? Is the client calling you a new listing? You would want to know a little bit more about a new listing faster than maybe on a website if if you're looking at the hot list. How many of you had an agent call say, I'm looking for this listing, and you don't know about it because you don't see it in the MLS? And sometimes it's one that's already been sold, so it's not coming up, and it still shows active on the website. Which of the following protections would be most important to you when you send your listings to websites? And let me get down to the larger part. The important things would be publisher cannot send or sell my data to other companies. That was 76%. Publisher can only use my information for display, 67%. For display to consumers. In other words, you can't use the information for some other spin-off product. Publisher must abide by local legal advertising rules, 67%. Listing content remains the intellectual property of the broker, 62%. In other words, they can't go use it some other way. Listing content can't be retained or used by the publisher for any reason after the listing's off market, 65%. And listing content must be updated a minimum 1 time a day. Publisher must provide traffic metrics in a format that allows online advertisers to be compared side by side. That's an interesting one. Then listing data can't be used to build other projects, and brokers can opt out at any time with no long-term commitments. Some of those are kind of bundled together. Did you know that if you manually input a listing on Zillow, let's say, that they are not bound by the rules that ListHub requires? Once they have that data from a secondary source, they can do whatever. They can keep it as long as they want. They can do whatever they want with it as long as they want. Pardon? Yeah. So that's why if somebody's you're sending them in as a broker. The agent's putting it in postlets. It comes back around into Trello and Trulia. We're calling Zulia and Trulio. That it gets to the portals, and that's why you get the multiple listings, multiple copies of the same listing, and they didn't go back and update the price, the agent didn't, so it shows 2 or 3 prices and all that, and they don't have to, they're not obliged, the portal isn't obliged to follow the ListHub rules if they didn't get it through ListHub. Sorry. Okay, this is just, what do you know about ListHub? I don't use it, I'm not familiar. I checked all the boxes when I syndicate my listings. That was almost half the people. My broker uses it, I don't use it directly, and 7% said I review each publisher individually and manually choose which sites to syndicate my listings. That should be a higher percentage in the long run. Okay, then what causes inaccurate listings? Hand-entered listings, delays in listings getting updated, programs that send the listing data that cause errors during transmission. I don't know, and I don't have problems with inaccuracy. I'm going to speed this up a little bit, but how important is it that your company control where the leads from listings go? Majority said critical, some said somewhat, and very few people said not at all, don't care. How important is it that my company can control where the consumer traffic from my syndicated listings go, like to the broker or agent site? Because if a consumer's looking at the listing on one of the portals and they click on it, you're the source, it should come to you, is the concept. And so the majority again said critical or somewhat important, and a little bit of don't care. But this one, this is a leading question. I appreciate the support that we are continuously evaluating all programs. I think we could do better, and that's part of what this process is actually about, and probably why they put the question in. Beginning with this survey so that we can better communicate how you can control your listings. How many listings did you have in the last year? And you know, we have a few people with a lot of listings, but this is the kind of scope out who's responding to people that have just a few listings, or is it people that have a whole lot? Every listing has a value, so. And what's your position in the company? So majority were salespeople and selling brokers. About a quarter were the principal brokers. That is 15, one more. And how many listings does your firm typically have in a year? I'm not sure how many agents know that, but that's the results of that. So. On the tables, there's a couple copies of the List Hub report. We do this at every brokers meeting. People kind of pick it up, page through it, take it home, throw it away, whatever. This shows several things of how many listings were at the various publishers, which publishers had the greatest amount of traffic. Zillow and Trulia right now have the lion's share. Okay, how many people, I'll do a little survey. How many people know that Zillow is buying Trulia? Yeah, big news. Okay, next one. ListHub got bought by the owner of Realtor.com about a year and a half ago. Well, that's not a big problem, and that was owned by NAR anyway. So now Move, the owner of Realtor.com and, see you nodding your heads, and ListHub have now been bought out by News Corp, right? Which is, and NAR, I just heard a couple days ago, because I haven't been following the minutia of that, they have some directors on the Move board. They gave those up, but they'll have some people on, some seats on the advisory board. So, and NAR was happy about News Corp buying Move. I think because they figure the huge media power there will help outbalance or balance up to Zillow and Trulia. It's a Wild West out there, kind of like Chris Polycron said. Yes?
You say you're annoyed by the number of phone calls you get from Realtor.com. We get huge numbers of phone calls.
So the question is anybody annoyed by the Realtor.com solicitation calls?
Well, no more than the Trulia and Zillow.
No more, okay. No more than the other ones.
We're all the same question.
Pardon me?
It's the same question. We get so many phone calls from our people over and over and over.
And?
Someone just said we advertise too much.
Well, if they weren't ringing your phone, it would be the regular political survey people that are going nuts right now. I mean, I do have a landline, and that's the one reason I think of getting rid of it. And the reason I want to keep it is for the pending hurricane or any other kind of thing like that. So anyway, so that's it. You bring up a good point, Betty. It's aggravating to get people soliciting stuff. A quick thanks, no thanks, hang up, or never call me again, whatever. Some people find value in Realtor.com advanced advertising. Some people find it in Zillow or Trulia. I think if we surveyed people here, we'd probably find I don't know if anybody give away their secret sauce of, yeah, I think this is a better venue than another. But obviously, if you look on what's on the right side of Zillow or Trulia, people are paying for that placement, some of the people in this room. And it's, you know, that's your marketing deal. You know, some of you pour 10% of your proceeds back into the marketing of the business. So however you're doing it. But the question is going to be, do you think that the solution is to turn ListHub off, or do you think it's better that we get educated about how we control where our listings are, all of you, our brokers, and the agents, and that you also are more aware of whether your agents are doing some back channel feeding of data to it, which isn't a sin, it's just they got to remember to go in and update it. But there are so many routes to getting those listings there. Has anybody had a problem finding listings? there's too many of them. It's too confused, and too many duplications. And there are ways to help alleviate some of the pain. I'm not sure that turning ListHub off is the answer, because every broker is going to want to do a direct channel to it. Jim?
Turning ListHub off wouldn't give any advantage to us as an MLS. First of all the realty companies already feed to Zillow, Trillia, and the others. At the same time, a larger company has the advantage of being able to go in and even input them there on their own. But if you turn off ListHub, that means a lot of individual smaller brokers will have a lot more difficulty going to put their listing on national syndication. I think it's a disadvantage for them, and therefore I don't think you should do it.
Okay. Is there a general consensus that way? Tom?
I believe he's really accurate with that, because I think if you think it's a Wild West now, if you shut the analogs and all that, the list come off, and then all these agents are pending, or the brokers are pending for themselves, we're going to get, I think, even more inaccurate and inconsistent information. That's going to create a bigger nightmare, and then it will definitely impact the small companies, and we're going to be saddled with the responsibility of bringing them.
Sarah?
Well, plus we have a contract with them, so if they start wandering, I know you can get on their case easier because we do have a contract.
Well, we have a contract with ListHub, yeah. And ListHub's got contracts with the portals. They are now giving access in the last couple of years. We can get a clear idea of what are the rules. They've also tightened up the rules with the portals. The syndication discussion has been going on nationally in the MLS industry for almost 4 years. The things that Chris Polycron had mentioned about the listing agent broker has to be on the first page of the listing with a link. And this is kind of like a Bill of Rights situation, or way of looking at it, and the only active listings. And right now and that's something else. Zillow has all the solds. We provide our IDX feed that we provide you to put on your site in competition to them, we keep having to one up or try to catch up really them. Okay, solds are there, so we're going to let you put 6 months of solds on so the consumer stays on your site, or hopefully stays on your site. So I think if we can get some consensus that turning ListHub off is not the answer, let's look at what is the answer. Tom?
I think I know in other markets, they limit the amount of information that's being provided to ListHub to a degree that I think the consumer goes to the Zillows and the Trulias because they have this vast array of information for our particular market. But you go to a place like, for instance, in the Midwest, in Missouri, they don't allow any sold transactions to go. They don't allow any pending transactions to go. So it forces the consumers to go to the resources that are there, which is the realtors. So I think it may be, and I'm not saying it's the right answer, but we're looking at the possibility of limiting some of the data that we put into this to force the consumer to go to the broker community. May be a solution now. That I believe, though, that the broker community, the entity of the big companies, still may have the ability to put it in and may dilute that. But as a MLS, as it is in this other market, the MLS has rules that say you're not allowed to. Right.
So we did the number of fields that ListHub had to send to the portals was decreased about 10, 12 months ago to about 15 things, and we expanded what goes to your sites. To accomplish that, the next step might be to take away actually they get no solds from us. They only get the actives. The agent sites get the 6 months of solds. So we're already kind of doing that. There may be other ways to do that. Then where I see, from my end of it, opportunity for making things better is when you find something wrong, somebody might call me, etc. Call me, send me a link. If you can, send me a link that shows where it's wrong. But I want to set up a page that says, okay, something's wrong on Trulia. Here's the support people at Trulia, and here's the support people at ListHub, and you can. I'm going to send it to them anyway, and I'm busy doing too much other stuff. It's going to slow it down. If you can send them the stuff, especially ListHub can look and see, did it come through them or come through a franchise or whatever. So there are ways to make this better operationally, because if you're the broker or the agent and you just know that it's not right and you're mad, That's not solving the problem. So does that make sense? Okay, so just so you know, the next part of this program is there will be an email coming out to everybody. It'll have a link to 6 little 5-minute long videos one's about, well, let me pull it up. So we're not playing the videos, we're just showing you, these are the topics. So online accuracy, data protections, duplication and trumping. Trumping is if a portal gets 3 or 4 copies of the listing from different sources, trumping is which one prevails. They only want to have one there. If it comes from the MLS, that prevails, unless another source is through their major franchise syndication. A lot of those contracts with the franchises let that one prevail. Smart syndications decisions, managing and optimizing the online traffics, and then reports and analytics. Now, I'm not going to be naive, and I'm not trying to veil anything about ListHub. They have an upsell side to what they do. You can get a general report. When you go in and set up your ListHub account, you can get enhanced analytics if you pay them a little money. But they're getting to where they're tracking more of where things are going, and Realtor.com is going to go into that tracking list too, which is what you're seeing, the breakdown you see here. What I didn't print out on these pages was where it actually, well, on this one it did. It ranks which brokerages are what. So I left that out of the print that I think is on your table. But there will be an email coming out with information about this. We'll go on to the next step, and if your agents and the brokers are more informed and more in control, and we can provide a better support setup on our end, I think that'll probably make some more people happy. Any questions? Karen?
Can you just clarify for me about the solds? I just want to be clear because I'm liking what I'm hearing. If the solds are only available through us, through one of our offices or our sites, that's one thing. But for them to be available...
We don't provide solds to ListHub. We don't provide solds to Realtor.com. They would like to do that. Realtor.com, who you used to be mostly owner of, would like that too. RPR is NAR, but that's only, okay, and thank you for bringing up RPR. RPR is Realtor Property Resource. That's going to roll out before the end of the month. You have to get into it with your National Realtor Database System number, your NERDS number, the big long national number. It'll be accessible. Once we get it up and running, you'll be able to, just like RealList, when you're looking at a listing, you click on it, on an action icon, and it'll take you into RPR's real property tax data. It's very similar to RealList, and once we get them both running, you can decide which one you like better. It is funded by you. Your NAR dues increased $40 a couple of years ago, every year now, and a good portion of that 40 went to build this huge database of every property in the US, and after 3 years of arm twisting, we agreed to provide the MLS data to overlay it, and now you get the full feature set. So we'll see how that works. I mean, it's getting better all the time. 3 years ago, there was a good reason why we weren't submitting to the arm twisting. It's developed quite a bit. But it's another tool, and it doesn't cost you anything additional. It's part of your NAR dues. But that's not anything like the portals. This is something that only realtors can get into. Our next decision with that is going to be, who else do we want to share our MLS data overlay with? Do we want to share it with Honolulu and other realtors in the state? Do we want to make the actives only visible to realtors across the country or not? And that's a discussion we can have next forum or two. Okay, so that was RPR. One other thing is Zillow, and probably Trulia, has a lot of sold information. They're getting that straight from public records. That's not coming from us. See, they are unfettered by things like political structure, committees, funding. They just can go for it. Steve?
It's very good. Recently I had one minute, they said it was my sale, and the price was way off the mark. I sent an email to them, they say confirm that, and they changed it right away.
Good.
For the sold. So
And that was at Zillow? Okay. Do you have that email interchange still? Okay, send it to me just so I can get the best address to send that to. To provide for you guys. Okay. Anything else about watch for this coming in your email, get educated, talk to your agents and brokers about it. Can I turn it over to Dave DeLeon for a government affairs update?
Greetings from the planet of politicians. In the order of this thing, there's no real, I guess it's order of importance. The wastewater rule is still moving through. We are developing a coalition. Everybody knows what the wastewater rule is? Anybody confused about that? We're very concerned about the use of a point of sale criteria for any kind of social act like this, because you'll become the police for wastewater, you'll become the police for energy use, you'll become the police for termites or whatever. You're already the termites police, aren't you? I'm sorry. Yeah, so the key for this one is not the State Department of Health, it's really going to be the governor, and we're laying, and if anybody has any hooks to this governor or Shanty, then use them. Because we need to put as much pressure there as possible. That's how this is going to be resolved. The bureaucracy that's running this particular effort has demonstrated no real interest in public input, and they're only doing public meetings because they have to, and because the legislature and the county governments are really beating them up really hard about not doing neighbor island stuff. So we had a hearing here last night. Lisa Teisner was good enough to testify on your behalf. About 25 to 26 people testified. I only heard one positive for the rule. Everybody else was saying, "You're going to kill me. You're going to make my house unaffordable," or et cetera. It was one litany of melodrama after the next. I mean, a lot of people are going to be really impacted, really hardly by this thing. So yeah, we're doing whatever we can to make that thing go away, and hopefully we'll be able to at least get it back to the next administration and get them to start over again. That's what we're trying to do. Not to say that there isn't an issue. There are places where there are public health issues, but saying that those issues are up in Kula is a bad joke. So I'm not going to go into the whole chapter and verse on this thing. How many folks, show of hands, remember Minatoya? Good. And I'll have to educate you what Minatoya is. It is back into the county council and will be heard on October 30th. And what we have now at this point is really, it's really a housekeeping measure. We're basically just getting notice in the county code that you can do short-term rentals in these properties that are the Minatoya properties. And all indications are, I went through the planning commissions and without really anybody even batting an eyelash. So there's no real indication of any kind of problem with getting this thing done. And we are now currently doing grassroots meetings with the county council. And again, they're all going, oh yeah, sure. Let's go do it. So we're hoping to have one hearing in the planning committee on October 30th, and then go to first and second reading and be done with it. So that, if you're confused about it, this does not change any code. I mean, if you're allowed to do short-term rentals now, you will be allowed to do short-term rentals afterwards. And if you're not allowed to do short-term rentals now, you won't be able to do that afterwards either. It doesn't change any of the entitlements. Another bill that we got moving through, well, not really our bill, but something we've been supporting, is a home-based business legislation, and that one is going to first reading, and it's out of committee. And basically, for realtors, you'll be able to have a home office with a sign and maybe one employee, and have customers come and exchange checks and do regular business activity out of your house, as long as it's not an impinging on the neighborhood. It doesn't, you're not doing like a full brokerage with 30 people or something like that. If you're just a simple home business, you can be able to do it, and you'll be doing it legally. It'll be an entitled use under the residential code, and it's just an accepted use. So you won't have, no permits, nothing special. Yes, sir?
Any parking requirements?
Yeah, you'll have to park on your property. But yes, ma'am?
How do they know that the neighbors won't mind if there's no permit?
They grumble.
They'll grumble. I mean, if somebody's making problems, then they'll go to the county and they'll get inspected and the county will enforce. That means that the way this is weighted is you should be basically invisible to your neighbors. You're not really called. Yeah, except for a 2x2 sign, yes.
Dave,
Yeah.
would that affect our whole exemption
No,
if we live there?
no.
Okay.
So they're just treating it as an allowed use in the residential district for this kind of use. Heavier uses, get a little more industrial, like auto repair, it's going to require permits, and it might actually be a change in taxation later on. But they haven't got that far with it yet. Workforce housing ordinance is still being tortured through an advisory committee on the side. I'm participating in that. We were just about to get that thing down to 25%, and then for whatever reasons, FACE, which is a social active organization of the Catholic Charities, got involved, and they threw themselves in front of it and said, no, we got to keep it at 50%. And we've been spending the last month trying to teach them economics. And our mantra on this one is 50% of zero is zero. We expect that the council be ready to handle this after the election. I had a council person tell me yesterday, basically, they didn't want to deal with the Catholic vote during the election. They wanted to get past the election first, and then they'll just do the right thing after that. There's a debate going on in the county council being raised by the Vacation Rental Association to lower the, to create put the STRs, the short-term rental properties, into the commercial taxation class as a means of avoiding the hotel type class. The administrator of the tax division on his own decided to put them into hotel, and those folks the guys with the permits got taxed at hotel this time around. About 50 of them organized and went in a joint appeal, and it's my understanding that's going to be reversed. And and that's going to be reversed primarily because we do have realtors on that board. And then they understand the property values and understand what's being understood, and they weren't just being spoon-fed by the administration. So the idea is going to be going to commercial as rather than trying to create a new tax base for a new tax rate for just out of one small group. Yes, ma'am.
I've got a question. It's probably ignorant and I should know, but I don't know. When they say short-term rental, I know the time.
It means the owner's not on the property, it's an investment property.
Is that, no, my question is regarding the family, the Filipino family or Portuguese family, whatever family, renting out a portion of the house as opposed to renting out a place. Is there a difference?
Yeah, B&B is when the property owner is on the property. Short-term rentals when the owner is off property and they're renting the whole property. We are making one more effort at the state legislature this year to try to get that 50-year rule removed from the historic preservation requirements so that homeowners will not have to go, homeowners of properties that are 50 years old or older will not have to go to the Department of Land and Natural Resources to get their permission to do renovations or whatever else they have, anything they need a building permit for. They should have made it through the last legislature. We allowed another organization to carry the ball on that, and they dropped it. And so my mantra at this point is to keep on it and not let it go, and make sure we get it this time, because there's no good logic for the thing. And the Department of Land doesn't even want to have all these people coming to them. They don't have the resources to deal with it. So that'll be an efficiency for them as well. And the last item I wanted to tell you about, I'm going to be doing, I just got the ballot for this election, and I'm going to be doing a review in my blog about what all those issues are in the back of the ballot. There's like about 8 of them. And you guys know about the initiative for GMOs. I'm not going to talk to you about that because you can make up your own minds on that. The one RAM-supported issue on that ballot is to continue the Affordable Housing Fund in Maui County. And so there was a yes vote on that. And basically, unfortunately, the county council, when they did this thing, they just can't take their hands off the lever of power. So they approved the thing, but for only a 6-year continuance. So this is a charter amendment. It's an item in the charter. It's only going to go for another 6 years. And if I had been in the room, I would really sarcastically, congratulated them on the fact that they're going to resolve our housing crisis in the next 6 years. I mean, it's like, really, guys? I mean, we're not going to need this after 6 years. But yeah. But so anyway, look for the blog. I'm looking for having that out in a couple days. Okay, mahalo.
Mike Trotter is making his way to the front of the room.
Good afternoon, Realtor Party members. It's always a pleasure to come here and address you all. We had a good year. We're starting a new one. You probably have seen me and my banner out at the last meeting, so we're getting started again. But I had a goal. The last few years, I took over from Kathy Paxton-Haynes, who led the way and passed the gauntlet to me. And so these last few years, I had this goal in my mind that this organization could raise a certain amount of money and get the members together, and we would have, I just set a level. And I don't know why I had this level, but I said, well, let's see if we can raise $25,000. So the last couple of years, we came pretty close. We were at 22 and 23, and I said, well, we're almost there. So anyway, you can all pat yourselves on the back because this past one, we got over 25,000. So we made that goal. That was my goal, but thank you. Thank you for helping me do that. So I'm working on another for this upcoming one. We are at 39%. 39% of our members are RPAC investors. Now, I don't know how you feel about that, but I think that's woefully too low. So my goal now is to try to raise that percentage up. And one of the things was really good today was the president of NAR, what he said about us being a force, being respected. I mean, you folks have done that, with your investment dollars, and RPAC has done that to help your business. And we are. And our goal is to have a seat at the table. We have a placemat with our name on it at the table now. We are respected, and it's from your contributions and your investment dollars that have done that. So I ask you to encourage your agents in your companies, brokers that have companies that have a lot of agents, to talk to them at your meetings, talk to them about RPAC and the importance and what we do for the business and how we help your business. So anyway, we're on to a new year, a new campaign, and you're probably going to see a lot of me at the meetings. And also for RPAC, for the state HAR RPAC trustees and the committee, P. Denise Lacosta is going to be the chairperson for RPAC, and I will be the co-chair. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Mike's pretty amazing. He's low key, but then he comes up and delivers a very strong message, and he's getting results. And that's pretty impressive. Okay, just in case you were wondering, this is as of 11 o'clock. So it's looking not so bad. It's of concern to me because we have Butt Busters CE classes Saturday. Anybody going to that? Okay. We don't plan on canceling, but if it veers north and is coming on heavy, then we might. But last hurricane, we had to cancel a couple of classes, and we never heard the end of it. Of course, if we had people come and somebody got hurt in a car accident or the roof blew off, then, you know, we'd never hear the end of that either. Okay. Let me cover a couple things. You know, you may have heard there's an election coming up. May have. And you're getting those phone calls. Anyway, please, similar to what Mike said, if we get out and vote, we're an awesome group. Vote however you want. Vote for your favorite candidate early and often. But if you don't vote, it doesn't do any good to complain later. Let's talk about license renewal. We had a little renewal information in the Thursday things. As brokers, please make sure your folks are renewing on time. Make sure you have renewed probably before them. How many people have gone and set up their account on MyPVL? Yeah? Okay. If you haven't, go ahead and do it. If you have any problems, you can contact them. I had a little problem and they got it squared away because I have an inactive license, but I still need to renew. So yesterday, renewal postcards were mailed out to all the agents, and they were blue in color. Okay, and the reason why we asked them to tell us what color it was going to be so I could make that announcement and people know what color to look for in their pile of paper. So when your agent says, I never got one, look for a blue postcard. And you should have also already gotten, end of September, the principal brokers get a letter that has your business personal ID number to renew your license, and that's unique to you. It used to be that you only got it by mail. If you lost it or didn't get it, you were in a world of hurt. So, and the whole thing with the MyPVL is it's going to get to, once they get the rest of the system going, that you can sign people on and off online, and you don't have to use a wet ink, hard copy, non-fax, et cetera, et cetera. So this is kind of the middle steps to that. Let me put in also a plug about, not for DUIs, but rather against DUIs. If you haven't gotten the message and reading the real estate bulletin, if you're out partying and you get a DUI, not only do you enjoy the criminal system, whatever happens there, the insurance, whatever, but the real estate commission, when you admit it, when you need to tell them within 30 days that you got convicted, and then they're going to bill you $500 for good luck. And if you don't tell them and they find out later, then it's at least $1,500. So make it less expensive on yourself. That's a better idea. Yeah, that's the other thing. And we've seen some of our friends there, and it's not only for DUIs in Hawaii, but anywhere, or at least anywhere in the U.S. So. Okay, so paper renewals, well, let's say the online renewal is going to start on the 20th of October, and let the games begin. Make sure your agents have got their CE all done in a timely manner. The ideal is the end of November so that licensing has a month to get everybody's licenses in gear. Some people will be on the computer online system the last day of the year trying to complete it, and if they don't complete, they still, if they complete it by the end of the year, they still won't have an active license card from the real estate commission before at the start. And I'd suggest when you get an offer from somebody else, some other company, have them fax over their license or email or however, or you can check online. Do they have a current active license in 2015 so you're not getting in trouble for that? Yeah.
We'd also add that the state cuts things off from 4 o'clock. You don't have to do midnight to do anything on that.
Right, okay, so if you're trying to do your CE online the last day, the servers are on the mainland and it will turn off about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So, don't wait till the last day. Yeah. Don't wait till the last day, make sure your agents are all done a week or two in advance. Okay, now I printed out all the highlights for your, for the RAM updates, so if we run out of time or I run out of wind, you know what's going on. We have 1,383 agents. You may say, hey, I thought we were over 1,400 last month. We were, but then we sent out the dues billing. And as usual, a few people get rid of that expensive hobby. And then it's building back up. We had 19 people in new member orientation beginning of this week. And the breakdown there is of the realtor population, 550 brokers, 833 salespeople. And what did Jeannie, we talked about, what was the percentage that worked out to? Yeah, almost 40% of our agents are brokers. And the hope is that that means all the transactions go more smoothly. So keep encouraging everybody to do better and better on that. 125 affiliates, which is a good count. The bylaws line that was left over from last forum. The real estate website, I've already covered. The general membership meeting in February, Jeannie, can you speak to that?
Sure.
Thank you.
Amazing, he called me out. So we're doing things a little different. As some of you know, I've been involved in commercial real estate as well, and this is kind of typical of what the commercial, like IREC and commercial, Maui Commercial Roundtable and stuff, periodically, just to break it up and do something different, we do an afternoon business meeting. So in November 14th, please calendar that in and encourage everybody to come. We're going to have, we haven't quite finalized the list, but at least a half a dozen, 6 or 7 local developers on Maui. They're going to just spend about 10 or 15 minutes just showing you a quick slide, presentation of what's coming up, so that we are all on the same page and knowing what's coming up around the island for new development, new projects, new inventory on island. And that will be from 2 to 4, probably here in this room. And then from 4 to 6, we're going to have a no-host cocktail bar. The idea here is that we have a business social, okay? And we're going to ask these developers to stick around, because we're not going to do a question answer period that's just takes too long and sometimes becomes divisive. The idea is that we'll have them meet and mingle with all of us outside. Afterwards, you can stick around and have a cocktail if you want to or not, but you can stick around and get to meet these people up close and personal and ask any particular questions that you have. They will also have some people on their team, or maybe themselves, with some tables, because as usual at a GMM, we'll have the affiliate tables, but they'll also have some tables, and so they may have some handouts and things like that. So, again, it's not the morning. Please let everybody know that it's going to be at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and you can leave after if you want to, but I would encourage everybody to hang out and just see how that feels to meet and mingle with these developers after. So I hope to see you there. Thanks. Wait, one more thing. I tried to tell Betty Sakamoto this because she was complaining about the Trulia Zillow calls. So last year I got smart, because this time of year they start calling because they're trying to get your advertising dollars in, before the first of the year, before you spend them all on somebody else. So I started capturing their numbers in my phone. That's really easy. You just capture it in your phone. It was Trulia that called, it was Zillow that called, and I got no problem, or whoever, and hanging up on them, or not hanging up, but just saying no thanks. And then if you want to, if you have an iPhone, and maybe you could do this on a BlackBerry, I don't know, but then you go in and you simply block the call. So there you go.
Okay, who's got a BlackBerry in the room? Raise your hand. Yeah. I know somebody in the MLS industry that does. He proudly waves it around, as long as it keeps charging. Okay. Thank you, Jeannie. MLS, real quickly, in the search criteria screen, you've got pull downs for, especially for date ranges, the last last week, month, year, whatever, rather than have to type in all the dates, you can do that. On residential condo, we've added a field called CPR. It's actually going to be CPR land square footage. We're doing some adjustments today. One of our agents called me this morning quite upset because people were feeling misled because they're reading this full square footage of the residential condo first. And he says, why don't we add that field? And I'm looking at it on the screen. I said, but we have, it's right there. And he looks at it, he goes, oh yeah, I see it now. But we're going to shuffle it around. We're also going to make it that if there's if it is a CPR and it's got CPR land square footage, the data will appear in red, bold, so that it'll be an empty field. Nobody will pay attention to it unless it applies. And we're not trying to mislead the public, but I'll tell you, it's quite a challenge to figure out how each individual pair of eyes reads anything anymore, because what's obvious to you may be not obvious to me. Okay, and another obvious thing, gosh, we have replaced the fax number on the reports with your email address. Now, obvious or not obvious, a lot of times you look at something so much it doesn't dawn on you, but anybody can have a great idea, just float it on up, and we'll try to take some action on it if we can get some consensus that that's a good idea. Sales statistics came out for September. I don't know if you read the article in the Sunday paper. Every time they print out the article, I go through and I have to check every number that did they calculate right, and they were pretty much right on. So the prices are coming up. The number of sales fluctuates each month up or down. It's kind of choppy, Paul Brubaker word. And you guys are. I ask each of you when I see you, how's your market going? And somebody will say it's really picking up, and somebody else will say I'm in the dregs. So it all averages out. I wish you the best of luck with it, and get ready because the busy season is going to be coming. As long as the hurricane doesn't hit us. And again, the interesting thing was the percentage of sales that are cash. It was 45% for a few months and 44%, it's about 43% for this last, actually, it's not the month, it's the rolling, no, I think it's the year to date on that is what I did. But what's interesting, I thought, well, okay, it's all the high-end stuff, but if you look at it, it's quite a mix. So investors are buying, I assume it's investors if they're paying cash, are buying a variety of things. So, and Sarah, you're here. Do you want to give us a quick update on the RAM community or the Wishing Well part? As you know, we gave away 38 scholarships for this current year. And did you have an update for the Wishing Well?
Just a quick update. The first time I got to only 6 schools that still need some assistance in some format. If you're in the neighborhood or interested, Kula Elementary, Pai'i Elementary, Pukalani, Uwaluku L, Maui Waiana, and Intermediate are the ones I still need a coordinator for. And if any of you ever go to Lanai, got contact going back and forth with teachers, but getting supplies over to them has been a challenge. So, like I said, if you're doing a trip over there, let me know and I'll give you a box of composition books to take with you. We still are in need of gently used or new tennis shoes, particularly for local Lonnie. Believe it or not, they share shoes because they have a lot of homeless for Micronesia and they just don't have enough. So if your kids have outgrown your shoes or you go up here and like, this is terrible, they can use them. We'll just take them right over to local Lonnie. And the other is...
Drop them off.
Yeah, drop them off at RAM. And if you've got somebody who's a condo or yourself, you've got some area rugs. Believe it or not, there's a lot of, particularly the elementary teachers, are always asking for area rugs where their little ones can sit on the floor and they can have the reading center, all of that. So things you wouldn't think that a teacher could use are really can't use for cases, etc. Thanks.
Sarah, with those area rugs, they probably don't have to be large.
Yeah, the mass usually it's like 5 by 7 to a 9 by 12.
Yeah, not that big. Small groups of kids, yeah. Okay, Sarah, I want to thank you very much for your Wishing Well work. And for those that, if you haven't heard the total, it's over $1 million in goods and services that we've connected from wants to need and have. Okay, now comes the exciting part. Depending on how much energy you still have left, the open discussion and feedback. No? Well, let's see, pies, coffee, maybe sweaters or not quite so much chilling. Yeah? Okay, and Too cold. No, this is about, we scheduled at 2:30 and we rarely get to 2, which we're about at. Let me also do a big thank you to Dave DeLeon and everybody who's ever worked on Minatoya, who's mentioned the word in a meeting. When I started at RAM 18 years ago, we were going to the county talking to them about what would later be labeled Minatoya. And it's amazing if we can actually get that thing signed off and done in an election year. So we're not talking about it. So, Jeannie.
You folks, the Pot family of Aloha Realty Group, is that right? Had brought up a concern the other day about the new, it's called R109, the SRPD, Sellers Real Property Disclosure. So if any of you folks read the HER announcement that comes out online and it says, you know, your input is wanted when we're going to amend these forms and so forth. I just asked Roy before they took off this afternoon, and he said that is not finished yet. So the final version has not come out. If I may, the concern that they brought up was that there's room in there to talk about whether the seller has an elevation certificate or not. I don't know if any of you are aware of that. I don't remember the line number, and I didn't bring a copy, but you know, so I guess the thing to be concerned with here is, you know, when these things come out, we do need to look at them, and even if you don't have the time to comment, like their company did, they did read the drafts, and it causes for, you know, conversation amongst ourselves. So I would invite anybody today, if you have any input on any of those things and you want to talk about those ideas or any of the other changes that are coming up. I mean, because the one in the Sellers Real Property Disclosure is quite extensive, some of the changes that are proposed in there. And frankly, I looked at it and went, oh crap. And, you know, that's kind of where I left it. But I did see that line, and yeah, I mean, this is why it's important to get on committees and things like that and pay attention to that stuff. But certainly, if you do have the time to write back to these committees when they're asking for input, whatever your ideas are, why you think it will work, why you don't think it'll work, and specifically why it won't work, you know, that's really, really good input. So do you folks want to add anything to that discussion today?
Well, I guess, you know, the way it's written right now, it says, if there is a elevation certificate, please attach it. It says if there's an elevation certificate that needs to be attached. And so I guess the conversation that I wanted to have was, when is it required? You know, when do we require it from our sellers when we're listing a property?
Right. And, you know, I'm not an expert on elevation certificates, but I did go through this recently with the property I had listed on Ulunio. And also what I was telling you guys about a condo that I had, and so don't hold me to this, but with the condominium, which was in the flood zone nearest to the beach, I was told by the insurance agent, because I anticipate problems, that's kind of how I worry that it's going to come up. He said because the insurance had been continuous and there had been no change, that there would not be required an elevation certificate. But if for any reason that they had lapsed it, or perhaps when they change carriers, I'm not 100% sure, these are things that we would need to find out, that could become problematic. With the home that I had, which is actually 2 homes on a lot, I learned a lot about elevation certificates because I thought at first that they would just find the middle of the property, the highest point, and take it, and no, they actually go inside the door jamb in the house, and that is, you know, one of the elevations that they measure. And the surveyors are maybe disinclined, shall we say, to want to have to do them. I don't know if they're just more labor intensive, but if we're going to run into a situation where we have these come up more often, or they're going to be asked for, you know, that could create its own set of problems just because it's time-consuming, it's expensive, and again, I think some of the surveyors are disinclined to want to do them. So pay attention to that issue. So anything else you guys have? Brian?
Any property disclosure statement for vacant land, not for residential?
You know, it's always been my understanding we don't need to do one, but I've done them with vacant land. He said you don't need to do a seller's disclosure statement for vacant land. Oh, what? There isn't one, right. The one that we have is for residential.
And I really believe that there should be, because vacant land could have everything that a residential land has except a house.
Yeah, it used to.
Speak to that. It used to be vacant land didn't require one. They had different disclosure statements for each property type. And they made a all-is-one form, so that form is applicable to many. The stupid part is you're putting stuff in front of the seller about condos or land when it's a house or whatever. It's not germane to what they're selling. And that's what we can take up with Roy again with the Standard Forms Committee. If you give them their input of, hey, we need to split these apart again. They thought it was a great, you know, streamliner. And you know, maybe it's not, but definitely you got to fill it out on vacant land. But it's hard because they're talking about stuff that is not vacant land. So if you guys feel that it should be separated out, give Jeannie the feedback, Marion, or directly to Roy or.
So Terry, what triggers this?
What triggers what?
The certificate.
No, we're talking about real property disclosure statement at the moment.
No, the certificate that she was talking about.
That was a previous conversation.
In the proposed new SRPD, there's a line item where it asks the seller, do you have an elevation certificate? Yes or no, and if you do, please attach it.
My question is, if he doesn't and needs one, what would trigger him to get one?
It's not what it says. So it's just, if the seller has one, attach it, okay? If he doesn't have one, he doesn't, you know, it doesn't address anything beyond that. If the buyer needs one, then the buyer would have to go get one. Robbie?
A different topic, just fantasizing a little bit. David, do you know if the home business ordinance gets passed, are there any signage approvals on county level?
It's in the ordinance of 2x2.
So
where it can be hung on the property.
So my question would be, could any of us in our neighborhood put out a sign that says, our brokerage, our name, your Maui Meadows real estate specialist, call, or appointments, by appointment only?
But I never referenced the sign code in the thing.
So potentially, if we wanted to have a home office and put a 2x2 sign and be, quote, the neighborhood specialist.
Let me double check it, Ron.
That would be an.
Why not just list your house at just list your own house at $4 bazillion and put the regular sign up front?
But this is a little less interesting.
And what I'm hearing is that then the sign ordinance would come into play. So you can have the 2x2, but what can you put on it? You'd have to look at the sign ordinance, yeah.
Because you could be your neighborhood's, you could take a position with a sign as your neighborhood specialist. Your neighbors probably know you, and now you can identify yourself as people searching and driving.
There's all those other agents in the neighborhood.
I'm just curious, normally you have to go to the county and get what a sign, what people might have.
Robbie, my understanding is that the sign code says it's only for purposes of identification. So it can have your company name, your name, phone number, or email, but not a advertising message or a marketing message. It's an identification of your business location.
And the placement was also brought up, where you can place it. You can't place it on the road, you can't place it in front of your driveway.
And adjacent to the entrance of your.
You know, it's like the old doctors used to have a doctor's office, they put it in the window, that's what they're looking for, something that's visible but not really.
Also regarding the placement of the sign, I spoke to my cousin Gladys Bison, and she said it has been taken up, and they have determined that they would leave it up to the landowner or the business owner. And the reason for that is because they looked at the curvatures of the different properties. And so basically you might have a like in Fayette, you got this hidden businesses, but it's got to be on the side. So that pretty much, I believe, will be left up to the individual as to where the placement is.
So more to follow on that. Anybody else have something they want to talk about?
Well, back to the seller's disclosure, I just want to put a word in, I'd like it separated out again. It's a nightmare to go through with the client when you're doing the condo and all this stuff on residential.
Do a struck book, see how many would like to see it separated on the residential, on the disclosure statement?
Separating the seller's real property for vacant land versus residential. So 3, back to 3 separate. What if you have a residential condo?
That's residential.
You get 2 disclosures.
Yeah. With the business on it.
All right, well, the next Brokers Forum, we have a choice. March 26th, which is Thursday, but it's Prince Cohio Day, okay? So but think about this. I mean, I don't know how many of you really get all head up about Prince Cohio Day. Your escrow offices, some of them will be closed. You won't have any recordings on that day. So maybe that's a good day. And the other choice would be, well, I don't have any kids at home. How many people in here still have kids at home? Okay, so yeah. I'm kidding. That's a consideration. There will be kids at home. And then Friday. So which do you guys like? All those that think Thursday would be better than Friday? How many people like Friday? So kind of almost the same. Half of you didn't vote because you're already looking at your phones. I can see what you're doing. Okay, so probably Friday then. Will you guys come on Friday? How many people will come on Friday? Okay, that's better. Thank you. What was that? What'd you say, Howard?
Unrelated question. We're going to be able to get a website with dog realtor, right? And already there's restrictions on what you can have in front of the dog. Does anybody know if there will be any restrictions on the content you have?
Content of what? Okay. Question.
Okay, I'll repeat the question, I'll tell the concept, and then I'll tell you what I don't know. The question was, NAR secured what's called a top-level domain. That's like .com, .net, .tv. They got .realtor. And so you can, on October 23rd, just coming up soon, they will start the registration for that. And that means if I was a licensed realtor, a licensee, active, and a member of my local association and a realtor, that I could apply on that date on their website for terrytolman.realtor, or whatever I want to call it. So, if I did that, what can I do with it? I believe it's going to need to be real estate related, not vacation rental, but I'm not sure. And the best way to find out, we'll put it in next week's Thursday things, but actually we'll send it out before then. We'll post it on Paragon because that'll be about the 23rd when you get the Thursday things.
Actually, I just got an email that I believe it'll be the 20th or the 21st where we can go in. We're invited to go in 2 days earlier and re-register.
Pre-register. Okay. They're giving away 500,000 of these. You have to be a realtor member. Remember, if you quit being a member of NAR, you can no longer use it. And they're giving it away for a year. And after that, it'll cost you $39.95, something like that. And if you're not one of the first 500,000 of the million realtors to register with them, then you'll have to pay the $40 right from the get-go. And I bet they're going to restrict what you can use it for, and I don't know what multiples they'd allow any one individual to have, but that should be all spelled out. So we'll get it out maybe tomorrow so people get a heads up. I'm not sure how many people would really be chomping at the bit to do it, But there again, if you bought it and then, I don't know if you can sell it to somebody else either, but.
Well, you couldn't because it has to have part of your name in it. I mean,
Okay, you've studied up on more than I have. We got the announcement when Chris Polycron was talking at that meeting in August, but it was all kind of vague. So we'll get the word out about that.
So you think I could have an IDX search on there?
Well, it's just a domain that points to to wherever your web page is. It's not a web page, it's just a domain. You can have 20 domain names that all point to the same site. So, all right. Brian.
You know, some of the mainland is 3 to 6 hours ahead of us. So if they open this up at a certain time, on the mainland, they can gobble up 500,000 before it gets to the.
Okay, the concern is that we're, time zone wise, they'll get on, other agents will buy up, they'll buy up Realtor or whatever.
Get up early.
Yeah. Okay, anything else? Jeannie, thank you very much. Thank you all very much.